We've got some Ravens trade rumors and some Raven news to get into here, but before we do that, we are this close to 2,000 subscribers here at Ravens Rundown. So if you haven't already and you want free videos on Baltimore, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's dive into the first news item, then we'll hit some trade rumors with the deadline just around the corner, right? Cedric Ogbuehi, in one of, I thought, the more obvious moves in the NFL this year, he has been signed by the Baltimore Ravens. He is joining their practice squad, I would believe, a potential candidate for an immediate promotion for game day active rosters after the bye, of course. It was a surprise cut by the Seahawks on Monday with Ogbuehi. I was not ready for him to be released. He'd been really their backup offensive tackle, and he's not elite, but there are a lot of worse offensive tackles out there. You know, Andre Smith, for example. The Ravens have been decimated by injuries on the offensive line this year, and Ogbuehi did play a little bit last year for Seattle. Was he great? No, not really. He was okay, I would say, in the end. 1 sack, 2 hits, 10 hurries, only 277 snaps. So, again, a rather small sample size, a bit higher than you want on those hurries. But Russell Wilson does hold the ball decently long. The run grade was okay. But when you look at what this team has right now on the offensive line, I mean, you talk about injuries. It's bad. Ben Cleveland, Ronnie Stanley are on IR right now. Patrick McCarry is now banged up because the Ravens can't have nice things, apparently. Juwan James is not going to play this year, but is on the team, technically speaking. It's a rough situation here for Baltimore. And if you're going to keep Villanueva at left tackle, oh boy, he does make some sense, having played plenty of right tackle in the NFL. So I want you guys to grade the pickup for me of Cedric Ogbuehi. A, B, C, D, or F. It's pretty straightforward. A for me. Practice squad guy. Best, one of the better offensive tackles available on the market who isn't asking for an obscene figure. So I think it's an A, but I still want to hear from you guys in the comments. Let's go trade rumors now on offensive tackle. Nice little tie in there. ESPN, Jeremy Fowler and others have linked Andre Dillard to the Ravens, saying it wouldn't be a shock if an AFC North team, the Ravens or the Browns, called Philly about trading for Andre Dillard. Now, he has flashed at left tackle in the past, and there's a technicality we'll get into there in a minute in terms of how that could fit with the Ravens, but he's also flashed at left tackle this year, struggled in the past, and is a backup really when everyone's healthy right now for the Eagles on the offensive line. But he is cheap. He is affordable. In a limited sample size this year, Dillard's been pretty solid. Just the 1 sack allowed. The run grade's not great. Here's your potential red flag issue. Dillard does not like being on the right side. He's not good at it. Doesn't feel comfortable over there. It's a no-go. I think Alejandro Villanueva is better at left tackle than right tackle as well. So now you have the issue of, okay, where exactly does Dillard fit in? Now, the alleged value, the alleged asking price around Philly, at least what it could go for, based according to an NFL Network report, is a day 2 pick. I feel pretty confident saying it would be more of a 3rd-round pick than a 2nd-round pick. But that's a lot to ask for a guy who might only be with you for a year if Ronnie Stanley comes back next year. So I don't know if that's quite the right fit in Baltimore, but you're aggressive trying to win right now, so I'm open to it. And I want to hear what you guys have to say. The show's not about me. It's about you guys, after all. So this is the pinned comment on today's video. If you get that ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down and cast your votes. Y for yes or N for no. Would you trade for Andre Dillard? Another Eagles player also linked in trade. This is really more speculation for Baltimore. FANSIDED'S suggests the team go out and trade for Miles Sanders. The Eagles back. The Eagles, for whatever reason, cannot use him properly. It's actually a very weird and strange situation because they should run the football, and they don't. And Sanders actually played pretty well. One major issue here with the potential of going after Miles Sanders. A, Philly doesn't have that many good backs. He's also currently dealing with an ankle injury. Red flag, red flag. Do you want to trade for an injured guy? I'm not sure. That's something the Ravens have right now with Latavius Murray. Banged up last week. I think back next week after the bye. But the Ravens' ground game, and look, you lost your top 3 backs. Of course, it's not going to be as good. Latavius Murray's been steady but not explosive. Tyson Williams explosive, but he hasn't been reliable, at least from the team standpoint. He's not playing that much. Lev Bell, I'll say it, he looks washed. Devonta Freeman's had some big plays, but he looks a step slower too. There is nobody on this roster with the ability of Miles Sanders. So from a pure upgrade standpoint, that's a very obvious one. Only 63 carries this year for a team that it's just the usage has been so weird. But now he's banged up, 4.8 yards per carry. I like Miles Sanders, but I'm worried about the injury. Now, FanSided mentioned a potential trade package of a 4th plus a late-round pick swap. Open to it. I don't hate that idea. I wonder if Philly would want a little bit more than just a 4th-round pick for a team that I don't think wants to be tanking quite yet. But if that's the value, I'd probably do it if I was the Baltimore Ravens. So will they make a trade this year with the NFL trade deadline less than a week away? Type 1 for yes, they will, or type in 0 for no, they will not. Another name mentioned beyond Marlon Mack from this FanSided article, by the way, I wanted to mention briefly, D'Ernest Johnson. He would be the best back on the Ravens. Here's your issue. I have a very difficult time seeing the Browns, unless they get a good player back, trading away Johnson, who is the number 2 back right now, to a division rival. Probably asking for a little bit too much from that standpoint. They're back once again. The Allen Robinson trade idea. CBS Sports suggested the Ravens go out and they trade for A-Rob. Now, I've got some thoughts on this one, and we'll come back to the money side of it more in depth. But at $17.88 million, there's a lot going on that makes it tricky to actually pull off. The Bears very clearly are struggling, and it's almost like Allen Robinson, who has always produced, no matter the quarterback, it's almost like he doesn't want to be out there. He's not performing at nearly the level that we are so accustomed to A-Rob performing at, which is why I was shook when I saw the trade package CBS put together. The Ravens, of course, get Allen Robinson. The Bears get a 2nd and a 5th-round pick. That is an awful lot to move up for a player with 1 year left on his deal. So who says no? Type R for it is the Baltimore Ravens who say no, or type in B if it is the Chicago Bears who don't want to do that trade. I do think the Bears actually would say yes. But you know what? I say no for the Baltimore Ravens. I pass on that deal for a couple different reasons. One of them being the money. A-Rob is on the franchise tag this year. That actually makes it very difficult to make the contract work because you can't extend him. You can't add fake years to bring the cap hit down. You'd be stuck paying somewhere around $8 million for half a season of a guy who has not been that good. 23 catches, 250 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, if the Bears could find a way, which I think is possible, to eat a bunch of that money, okay, sure. They don't have the cap space to do it. So I think that makes it a very complicated trade for all parties involved. And oh, by the way, the Ravens actually have decent-ish receivers. Marquise Brown, I think, is in the midst of his breakout year. I know Sammy Watkins is banged up. I get that, but you spent a first-round pick on Rashad Bateman. If A-Rob's a rental for you, well then, you don't really want to get him because you got Bateman in the meantime, and he's so expensive for a rental, right? And Duvernay, and Prochet, and Boykin, and Wallace. They're actually, I think, okay at receiver. It's really been the offensive line ground game. That is where I would rather focus my trade efforts if I were the Baltimore Ravens. And news to wrap up then, Derek Wolfe, it appears, is finally set to return in the not-too-distant future. He has been designated to return from IR, notes, I guess I'll say on this one. A has been out since week 1 of the NFL Preseason with that back hip issue. He'd be a good help to the front 7. Does not mean he's back next week, although I think the timing makes me think he will be. There is a 21-day practice window for Derek Wolfe to return to the field. So there's that window that allows them time to get out there and get practice reps in before they return. We'll see how much timing the Ravens utilize in that area. He'll be a good boost. A nice addition to a very promising Justin Madubuike, Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell, Justin Ellis. Getting Wolfe in that rotation, I think in the end, will be a good thing for Baltimore moving forward.